Welcome back to In Between Cuisine. I'm Tony Hickman. So I was sitting in one of my cooking classes this week and the instructor asked us a question: what is a dish that is true to Texas? And there was a lot of guesses going out. I said brisket, which I think is kind of true too. Some people said queso, and I was good with that one, but the answer is chicken fried steak. Apparently that is a Texas staple dish. So that got me thinking, you know what? I live in Texas. A, I should have known that was a staple here. But B, I haven't made a Texas dish yet, so I'm in Texas. Let's make a Texas dish. So we're gonna make some chicken fried steak. Now, also someone said queso, and that got me thinking too. What if we create something that I don't know if has ever been done before? What if we have chicken fried steak with a queso on top? That would bring the best of both staples that are known to be Texan. Is it gonna work? I have no idea, but it's gonna be worth a try. So let's give it a go. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is get our cube steak ready. You can find this at your local grocery store. Of course, mine's my local HEB. What we want to do is get this into a little marinade of buttermilk. So we're just gonna place this in a container like so. I'm gonna add some buttermilk. You don't have to use a container. You could use a giant, freezer Ziploc bag if you want, however you want to do it. But I just have a little container here. I'm gonna let these marinate in this buttermilk for at least 30 minutes. I mean, if you want to do it overnight, that's probably best, but you know me, I do not think that far ahead. So we're just gonna make do for about 30 minutes. While that is in the fridge, we're gonna go ahead and make our breading. So we just need some all-purpose flour. Again, I'm just eyeballing all this stuff. Some fresh cracked black pepper, a generous portion of salt, some paprika, and then we're just gonna mix that all in together until it is evenly spread out across the mixing bowl. And our next step is to create a simple egg wash. No secret how to do this, pretty simple. You want to crack your eggs. Use the tabletop to crack your eggs, something I just learned from watching a whole bunch of cooking shows. This will prevent any eggshells from getting into your mixture, and it just seems to crack the eggs a lot easier. Brilliant. And if you have any of that buttermilk left, go ahead and add a dash of that into here now. If you don't have any left, don't worry about it. It'll still be perfectly fine with just 2 eggs. And you want to give these a good mixture until all that buttermilk and eggs are evenly mixed together and nice and smooth. Next, we're just going to put a bowl full of breadcrumbs. Again, I have these breadcrumbs in my cabinet, been trying to find a way to get rid of them. Now seems like a pretty good time, so let's get rid of them. So it's been about 30 minutes that these have been marinating in the buttermilk. This will help get that meat nice and tender and juicy. First step, put it directly from the marinade into the flour. You want to kind of press hard into this flour, make sure you're getting it deep into all the little crevices and cracks of your meat. Do both sides as many times as necessary so it's evenly coated. Next, you want to put it into the egg wash that we made. And same process, just make sure that both sides are evenly coated, flipping it as many times as necessary. And the final step is adding the breadcrumbs. And just like the other 2 steps, you just want to keep on flipping this into your breadcrumbs, pressing firmly, and make sure just get all those little crevices filled with the coating. Once that is done, go ahead and set aside and repeat for as many pieces of steak that you have. Back over the stove, have our cast iron already heating up over medium to medium high heat. We are going to heat our vegetable oil till it gets about 350 degrees. Place our steaks in. Always place the steaks in away from you, just in case they splatters to the wall and not directly onto you. These will cook quick, about 3 to 5 minutes per side, so don't walk away from these. It's been about 5 minutes, and as you can see, I waited about 1.5 minutes too long, and we have a little crusty going on. But hey, like I said, I only buy ingredients for what I'm making. There's no redos, there's no retakes. It is what it is. So we're just gonna have to make do. This is probably where most cooking shows would turn this off and start all over again and present something a little more presentable, but that's not how I do things. I'm gonna show you exactly how I cook these dishes, and hey, I make mistakes. So we're gonna work through this together. Let's see if we can't salvage this and still make a great dish. So once both of these are done cooking, and I'm gonna go ahead and put those aside and let those dry. Now let's make our queso. A little bit of prep work here. We're gonna do about half a block of sharp cheddar. You can use any cheese that you want. This is just what the cheese I'm gonna use. And then I also have some cubed jalapeno jack cheese that I'm gonna go ahead just to give this queso a little extra kick and a little more variety of flavor than just a single cheese. You wanna add about a tablespoon of cornstarch, and this will help thicken it as you add it to the sauce. Otherwise it will be just a little too thin. You want your queso nice and hearty and thick. Next we have some green onions. I'm just gonna cut the tips off of those and just chop these up, and about 2 right there. Should probably just be about enough for what we need. And this next step is optional. If you like parsley, you can do it. If you do not like parsley, just go ahead and omit this step. I think it adds a little zing to it. So if you do like it, just give these a chop and try to get them as thin as possible so we can easily mix it into our queso. All right, so now back over our stove, we have about 1.5 tablespoons of melted butter. Once it's all melted, we are going to add, not all, but most of the onions that we just chopped. And I love garlic, so we're gonna do about 4 cloves of garlic. If you're not a huge garlic person, you could cut that in half, or if you're more of a garlic person than me, you could add even more. Totally up to you. I think 4 is a good number for me. And then we are going to mix that around. And then of course, here's my mistake again. Already for this next bit, I forgot to push record. So what you're about to not see is I added some Chipotle powder, a dash of Cayenne, and some Cumin all into the mixture. I love Cumin, and very rarely do I get to use it, so I like using it whenever I can. So now we have a 4-ounce can of green chilies. So this is going to be a Texas style queso. So Texas style quesos definitely have a little bit of heat to them and have some chilies and tomatoes in them as well. So it's not just going to be a plain boring cheese queso. Once you have those cooked in, you want to add your tomatoes. Now I thought I had fresh tomatoes, which is what I would have preferred, but then I came to cook the dish and I realized I didn't. But I did have a can of diced and drained tomatoes. Just make sure you drain the can as much as you can. You don't want any of that extra syrupy sauce getting into your queso. You just want the big chunks of the tomato. Once those have been cooking for about 2 or 3 minutes, you want to add a can of evaporated milk. This is going to get what pretty much gives it the substance that you need to make a great queso. Add that in and stir this around. Make sure it's all good and not sticking to the bottom of your pan. And then we want to bring this to a boil. Oops, one more thing, I totally forgot. I like to add a little heat to mine. So I'm gonna add a dash of cayenne peppers to it and stir that in before it comes to a boil if you want a little extra kick to it. Once at a boil, now it's time to add our cheese. Go ahead, get all that cheese in there and give it a gentle stir around. Here's the important part. Once your cheese is melted, turn off the heat. It's not a good idea to boil your queso. Cheese does not boil well, and you just get a texture that nobody wants to eat. So I had those cubed pieces of cheese in here, so it's going to take a little bit longer for that cheese to melt. Continuously stir this as you're waiting for all your cheese to melt. Do not let it sit. Just stir the whole entire time. If you didn't have cube cheese, the shredded cheese will take a lot less time, so this process won't take quite as long. Now that the heat is off and your cheese is melted, this is the optional part. You can go ahead and add that cilantro in there and give that a good stir and make sure it's evenly all across your queso. And at this point, I don't think that there is anything left to do but to put it on a plate and give it a taste. Your queso dip is done. Who knew it was so easy to make queso, right? So let's put it on top of these steaks and see what we got. All right, so I tried to find the best looking one that didn't look totally burned, and that's it. Still some burnt on some edges, but hey, again, we work with what we got. Now, I don't know if this is gonna work or not. Again, I'm just totally making this up. This idea came into my head, so we're gonna spoon this queso directly on top of our chicken fried steak. And if you have any of that onion left over, go ahead and sprinkle some of that on top just to give it a little bit of a more crunch to your queso. And again, totally optional. If you have any of that cilantro left, you can also put that on top just to make it look pretty. Now, I don't know if it gets any more Texan than that. I mean, that's two Texan things right there. So let's, moment of truth, let's cut into this and see what we got. Oh, look. See, I was a little worried that that steak wouldn't be cooked all the way through because of that crust, but it was actually cooked beautiful. As you can see, all the burnt crust. But hey, nothing little queso can't take care of. Took a bite of it, and I thought I was just going to take one bite and be one and done, but no, it was so good. Oh my goodness, I had to go ahead and eat that extra piece right there. I wanted to go ahead and just eat this whole thing right then and there, but that doesn't make for a good video, so I had to force myself to stop. Not only does it get 1 thumbs up, it gets 2 thumbs up. Outstanding. So what do you guys think of that little hybrid dish that we kind of created? Doesn't get more Texan than chicken fried steak with queso on it. That just screams Texas. The only thing that could have made it more Texan was to have a brisket taco sitting right next to it. I totally should have done that now that I think about it. But the only thing I would have done different is instead of using the breadcrumbs, because they cooked a lot faster than I anticipated, so the breading did get a little crusty on there, as you guys saw in the video, I would have just double dredged it in the flour. So flour, egg, back to the flour again, and then put it on the frying pan. But hey, you're in this with me. We do it together. We learn together. That's what this is all about. So if you like this video, please give this a thumbs up. If you think you can do any better of a Texan dish, or you have any ideas about a good Texan dish you want me to try and make, leave it in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'm Tony Hickman for In Between Cuisine. I'll see you guys next time.